Hello, everyone, and welcome back to It's a Rare Day here on my channel. This is the third live stream of the day, but so many people were so helpful and forwarded to me the documents that the lawyer representing Micah Miller's family, of course, we all know Micah Miller, right? The lawyer representing Micah Miller's family uh, had a packet at the press conference, and a lot of people have been helpful to me and have forwarded that press packet to me. And I just think it is so important that we spend some time going over that. And that actually is one of the things before we really dive in. I don't want to bury this lead, but over on my website, guys, you can reach out to me here on the contact me page, and you can upload documents to me or send me links. If there's something that you would like me to see, please go over to my website and help me with that. There's so many of you that have done that. And yes, Mooney, third time, 3 times in one day. This is a rare occurrence. All right, so without further ado, I want to get into this part of the document. The document that was passed out was 15 pages, which included sample letters to senators and representatives to try to pass what they are now calling Micah's Law. And part of it has, I think there are probably 5 or 6 pages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 pages of it are examples of the things that J.P. Miller, that they're alleging that J.P. Miller did to Micah in order to have abusive, coercive control over her. And of course, it starts out saying, keep in mind that all of the following allegations were taken from Micah's verbal story, her diaries, journals, and writings she left behind regarding her husband, John Paul Miller, also known as JP. Mr. Miller has not been arrested or charged with any crime related to Micah ever. Notice that they had to put in that caveat, related to Micah ever, right? Because we know that there are a couple things out there. Okay, so this is a list, by the way. And I'm sorry to keep going back and forth, but this is, let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, so this is the bill that has been in front of the legislature in South Carolina regarding to coercive control for about 3 years. And what they are doing, what the family is doing, is saying these are the things that happened to Micah, according to what Micah said and wrote and left behind, that definitely would have been against this law were it passed. But it wasn't. And so and then they added some things as well. Okay, so let's just go ahead and read through this. This is bombshell stuff, guys. Okay, isolating her from family and friends. JP cut her off from her family and friends, taking her contact list by confiscating her cell phone and hiding it from her, telling her that her family is using her, are not good people, and she should disassociate with them, forbidding her to spend time with friends or questioning her incessantly about it so that the harassment outweighs the benefit of having friendships. DB. Yes. You got a notification. I am glad. Glad. Thank you. Okay. B. Depriving her of basic needs. JP would not let her sleep, keeping her up at night and pulling the covers off her every time she dozed off, throwing her clothes on the front lawn of their home, waking her up and screaming at her incessantly to the point she had to leave to go sleep in her car just to get some peace and rest. Wow. Stalking, tracking her whereabouts. JP hired private investigators to follow and track her and put multiple GPS tracking devices on her car, After they separated, he would follow or find her by GPS tracker, and then he would drive by very slowly to make sure she saw him. He would walk into any place she was and go up to the table or area and make a comment or stand afar so she could see that he was present. That is creepy. Creepy. Again, these are allegations, right? But we do know, like, we have confirmation about the GPS tracking device. I mean, that was in the police reports. Okay, monitoring her communications. JP took her cell phone, went through her text messages and call logs, and claims he found 18 people had texted her that they were willing to listen to her if she wanted to talk about her husband, and that is admitted in a recorded sermon. We have looked at that sermon, guys. JP hacked into her email, iCloud account, and Facebook account and took over her identity. E. Taking control over aspects of her life. JP controlled who she could associate with, where she could go, and all aspects of her life, as stated herein throughout. He took her driver's license, wallet, purse, car, and house keys and changed the locks on the doors. Depriving her of support services, JP took her cell phone, her car, Apple Watch, and convinced her she did, quote, not need a lawyer. From the pulpit, he gave a sermon and chastised her and any woman or man that texted his wife that had encouraged her to confide in them about her husband, the pastor, thus shutting down even a private confidant. She became afraid to speak out. I know that this happened. But I cannot believe the chutzpah that this guy had, that in front of his congregation, he would take them to task like that. Like, y'all 18 people I found by going through my wife's phone saying that you'll be a confidant if you need to unload about your husband. That is craziness, man. That is not only exercising coercive control over Micah, that is exercising that same coercive control over the congregation, that for some reason, which I just cannot even understand, other than to say, man, he was just a good performer. But so many people in that church stuck with him being their pastor, and I cannot even believe it. It's shocking to me. Expressing her worthlessness, JP told her that she was lazy and mentally ill, that her chest was too small, that her family was ignorant, and they used her, and that she was not a good Christian woman if she questioned him or did not submit to him or keep all his dark secrets. Dude, I don't use this word often, but that is pretty evil, man. That is evil. H. Humiliated, degraded, and dehumanized her. JP forced her to submit to humiliating acts that disgusted and hurt her. He would tell her she was mentally ill and have her hospitalized against her will. He put her down for having ideas or getting inspired by outside influences. What is that? What is that line from Beauty and the Beast? Like Gaston talking about Belle, you're reading, soon you'll be thinking. Oh my goodness, talk about what am I trying to say? Like medieval, right? This is medieval. Okay, telling her or others that she fell for anything, i.e., she wasn't smart. JP uploaded a semi-nude photo of his wife to the internet and later apologized in an email and attempted to minimize the damage by stating it was only up for an hour. Prevented disclosure to authorities. When Micah would threaten to expose JP, he would ramp up his abuse and tell her that if she did, then she was not a Christian woman, not a dutiful wife, that she was acting like a judge. Only God is the judge, and that she was required by the Bible to protect him and not disclose what he did to her. In fact, according to JP, the Bible says she is supposed to forgive him for his abuse, and as a dutiful wife is to obey her husband, i.e., tolerate the abuse. And if she does not, she is sinning. Wow. Wow. Financial abuse. JP removed her from bank accounts and told her she did not know how to manage money, but required her to pay her own car payment, car insurance, and medical bills. K. Threats to hurt her, her family, or himself. If she hinted of exposing JP's abuse, he threatened to do this to himself, to unalive himself, and that he would jump. Wow, he would do this. I'm not gonna say it because I would really like this video to get in front of more people. He also made similar threats if she said she wanted to leave or divorce him, or if she refused to return to him after he threw her out. He threatened her family with violence. Oh my goodness. JP threatened to divorce her. What? Okay, you can't divorce me, but I'll divorce you. JP threatened to divorce her if she did not obey him and if she did not take, oh my goodness, if she did not take the pills he gave to her. Threats to child. That one is not applicable in this case. Thankfully. Oh my goodness. M. Threats to reveal or publish private information. JP would make videos of her in private settings and then threaten to upload them if she did not do what he wanted. He convinced her to send him a topless picture meant only for the eyes of her husband, and he uploaded it to the internet when she did not comply with his demands. Wow. Okay, I'm going to be careful with the words I'm using here, but JP did all this. He punched holes in the walls during his fits of rage and said he was, quote, on the way, armed and ready, close quote, when he demanded she leave her sisters and come home. JP kept her in a constant state of panic and fear that she would do something to, quote, trigger him. This one I redacted, okay? You guys know what it starts with an R. You guys know what it means, okay? While she was hospitalized, and this just kills me, guys. I don't even want to read this, but it's important. While she was hospitalized, probably because he put her in there, JP demanded that that she have sex with him while she lay in the hospital bed. He forced her to perform these acts against her will and demanded that she watch him in those acts with others and forced her to sit still so others could touch her against her will. JP told her and, quote, preached on Sunday that if she did not submit to his every request for this kind of, for sex in any manner he desired, then it was her fault if he got his needs fulfilled by another woman or man. P. Preventing her from having transportation. JP slashed a total of 5 of her car tires. He inserted razors into her tires, potential to cause her to wreck. JP took her vehicle that was titled in her name and paid for solely by her and hid it from her. In order to be able to get to work, she was forced to buy a second vehicle, thus giving her 2 car payments and insurance costs. JP took her purse, driver's license, and her car keys to prevent her from leaving the house. Q. Interfering with her work. When she worked at the church, JP would randomly fire her for disobeying him, and then he would hire her back if she agreed to certain acts or some other list of demands. He allowed or wrote letters to her on church letterhead demeaning her and putting her down. I'm sure that they have these. She had to leave the job that she really loved, the church, and take a job in the restaurant industry. That's how, okay, so she was desperate. She was desperate. Oh my goodness. You know what? With all this, no wonder. Like I know that I've been on the fence and I've been teetering. The whole bruises thing kind of has me. Maybe she did not do this to herself, but let's say if she did, let's say. No wonder all this my goodness. My goodness. Okay, the above tracks the originally proposed bill A through P, and the below are additional behaviors that may be added to the bill. Remember, they're trying to get Micah's Law passed. It has been called the Coercive Control Act, and they would like it to be renamed Micah's Law and have all this added. Okay. Number one, emotional abuse. Everything stated above and below, and even more that cannot be told due to the humiliation of it to the victim, Micah. 2, ignoring requests and commands to leave her alone. She asked him over and over to leave her alone, but he would not. After a police officer warned him to leave her alone, he trespassed into her gated community to leave a, quote, present or, quote, gift on the top of her car. 3, cruelty to her dog. JP threw Micah's belongings out of the house and then demanded that she, quote, come get her dog. She could not keep the dog at the apartment she was staying in at the time, and he knew that. When she did not immediately get the dog, he took the dog to her apartment and tied the little dog to the front door handle. He knew that she was not home, and he left the dog there. He had to leave where she was at the time. She had to leave where she was at the time to go get the dog. She had that Ring camera, remember? So this would all be on video. All of this would be on video. So she had to leave where she was at the time to go and get the dog. She found a home for the dog, but when JP found out about her giving the dog to someone else, he went there and demanded the person give him the dog back. Wow. I would love it if I were that person and he came to my door demanding something back. I would love that. I bet a lot of you would love that. Goodness. 4, destruction of property. JP intimidated her by damaging her property, breaking her things, giving away her things, or throwing them in the trash. He keyed her car, dented the hood with a dumbbell, backed it into something, damaging the trunk. He slashed the tires and cut up the passenger seat. Destruction of supporting evidence. Oh, this kills me. JP actively sought out her journals and diaries where she kept logs of details of things that he did to her. He found and destroyed many journals and writings belonging to Micah, which she intended to use as evidence to prove his destructive behaviors and abusive tactics. He also erased evidence, photos, videos, and writings that she kept on her iCloud and cell phone. The lawyer today, by the way, in the press conference, said that she had things in her possession that she was using in the case, in the divorce proceedings, I guess. Okay, number 6, misuse of legal documents. By the way, but that doesn't erase all the stuff that he allegedly destroyed, right? All that stuff is just gone. Okay, number 6, misuse. How do people follow a person like this in a church? Especially when he's like almost bragging about it in sermons on Sunday. I don't get it. Okay, misuse of legal documents. JP had an attorney write and send a cease and desist letter to Micah, demanding that she stop talking bad about JP and the church or suffer legal ramifications. By the way, have you guys seen the letters that have gone out to like YouTubers and podcasters purporting to be from JP Miller's attorney. And if they are real, if it is if it is true, it's so hilarious because the letter demands that these YouTubers stop sharing opinions. That's one of the specific things that it demands. Stop sharing opinions. Like, no, I am entitled to my opinion, and I'm entitled to share my opinion. Apparently, he had a lawyer send the same kind of thing to Micah. JP had a lawyer draft a post-nuptial agreement and demanded that she sign it, giving up certain marital rights before he would allow her to return to the marriage. JP used a lawyer to draft a separation agreement with one-sided terms and demand that she sign it without the benefit of representation. Misuse of law enforcement. JP called the police on her for no reason. He reported her for a crime she did not commit, making her subject to a police investigation which became unfounded and dropped. The officer allegedly told Micah it was abuse of law and a waste of police time. Misuse of legal process. JP filed papers twice in probate court to have her involuntarily committed, claiming she was, quote, manic, and asking for a mental health evaluation, claiming she was a danger to herself. The probate judge disagreed. JP convinced her to drop her divorce case against him and then turned around and filed his own case in family court against her, and then he dropped his suit shortly after filing. But man, this guy is... If this guy did these things, he is nuts. He's certifiably insane. Adultery and promiscuity. JP cheated on her many times. He sent nudes of himself to other women. He paid a woman from church $10,000 to destroy an explicit video of himself. He flirted with other women. He sexted and dated other women. He paid for sex with both women and men, people not known as prostitutes. Huh. That makes me... I wonder who those people would be if he's paying them for sex. I'm wondering if it's any of the parishioners, any of the members of the congregation of Solid Rock. Oh, stealing her identity. JP took her cell phone and sent texts to her family and friends pretending to be her. JP sent emails and texts from her accounts to church members and her family, pretending to be her, admitting she was doing bad things, his attempt to disgrace her name. By the way, I'm sure you guys are familiar that there are people who are former members of that church that when they left the church to go to another one, they allege that JP Miller would contact the church, the new church, and tell the administration and the pastors and all the leaders what terrible people they were, in order to try to get them, I don't know, thrown out of that church or something. I don't know. Okay, cyber technology abuse. JP got access to her technology, changed her passwords, took over her accounts, and hacked her social media, her iCloud, cell phone, and email. He posted on her social media feed and then tore it down and locked her out of the account. He would text her about details of where she was, who she was with, and what she was wearing, or ask questions that only someone who was there would know to ask. Medical abuse. JP, quote, declared her bipolar, forced her to take lithium, a prescription of his own. So she wasn't prescribed the lithium, he was. He monitored whether she complied with taking the pills and forcefully gave her steroid shots, testosterone shots, in her arms, thighs, and buttocks. JP would make her swallow pills in his presence, and if he thought she did not take them, he would cut them up and put them in her food, his own admission. And I'm guessing that they have got the emails on this. I'm guessing the family has plenty to back this up. Okay, spiritual abuse. JP knew how much she adored and loved Jesus and the teachings in the Bible, and that she wanted to be a good Christian, so he used it against her. When she wanted to divorce, he told her God hates divorce and it is a sin. By the way, she even said that. She even said that. We're going to watch that video. Hang on just a second. When he would do, when he would do terrible, terrible things to her, he would tell her that God said she cannot judge him, and as a good Christian, she is to forgive him, and even more so as his wife. Let me see if I can find this video. I think this is it.
So today my heart's a little heavy. I've had a lot of women that have reached out to me about situations of abuse. And I just want to tell you what a lot of people have told me lately and reminded me, because I think I forgot. I knew, but I pushed it in the back of my head just because of my situation. But you are the bride of Christ. Before anybody else's bride, male or female, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what gender you are. Abuse is abuse. And you are the bride of Christ. And my Bible says that he took all the abuse you could think of for you so that you didn't have to live that life of slavery and bondage and pain. Jesus took it all for you. So you don't have to stay in a abusive relationship, whether that's sexual, whether that's somebody forcing you to take illegal drugs, or alcohol abuse, or physical abuse, psychological abuse, making you think that this is all your fault, or you're a bad mom, or you're a bad wife, or you're a bad husband, or you're not giving it your all when you know you are. God hates divorce.
Here it is.
But why? According to everybody I've asked and the scriptures that I've found, it's because it hurts people. But does abuse hurt people? How do you think God feels about that? So,
yeah,
I want to remind.
So that just brings me right back to this, right? So she's being told that God hates divorce and it's a sin. And when he would do terrible, terrible things to her, he would tell her that God said she can't judge him. And as a good Christian, she is to forgive him, and even more so as a wife. My goodness. I just want to shake him. Church abuse. JP weaponized the church against her and often used the pulpit to give sermons that were really messages to Micah to correct her ways, or were directives to her, or sometimes used to demean her by name to the congregation. She felt strongly about tithing to the church, but JP refused to tithe with his own church for about 4 months. Wow. He encouraged the congregation to do so, but he wouldn't. Wow. This was very upsetting to her. He wrote letters to her on church letterhead for the purpose of harassment. 15. Phone calls to everyone. JP found out that she went to another church. He called the pastor to, quote, explain her issues. JP found out she got back in touch with a female friend. He called her to, quote, see what was going on. JP called and texted her family. JP called her work. JP called her roommate, her godmother. JP called members of the congregation. JP called her lawyer after she passed away to tell his side of the story and to ask for Micah's retainer money to be refunded to him. Wow. The chutzpah, man. And the physical abuse without marks, number 16. JP, what? Finger punched her in the throat. He held her up against the wall by her throat, slapped a drink out of her hand, and while out in public together, He snatched her plate of food from her and threw it. That is Micah's List, guys. And that is a despicable list if the allegations on this list are true against Pastor Miller, and I have no reason to believe that they are not. Wow. I mean, I just can't even. Let's go to your chats. Terry, thank you for the super chat. Gavin, you're doing an amazing job. Thank you. I deeply appreciate it. Thank you. And thank you all for your support, whether it's through super chats and super stickers or through subscribing or sharing the videos. I deeply, deeply appreciate all this. Nifty 50 says, Gavin, others have been charged with murder with less evidence than this. Why has he not been charged? Man, I don't know. And I'm starting to lean toward him actually having something to do with it, not just being not just his coercive abusive behavior leading to it, which is what I most of the time since this happened have kind of, that's the side that I've been on. I'm now starting to lean to the other side where, like, okay, this feels like he is unhinged, like he is unable to even. He's unable to even. And it just would not surprise me if he had something to do with this more than just this behavior that may have led to her doing it to herself. I don't know. I don't know. Mrs. B says, wackadoo, evil and vile beast. Yep. Cloud9 says, JP isn't the only fraudulent pastor in Myrtle Beach. Oh, that does not make me happy if that is true. Let's see. It's hard to fathom, but likely those people who follow him have a lot to hide. So like to hear what they feel justify them. You know, that is a terrific comment. That's a terrific comment. Like, look, guys, I'm an active church-going Christian. I go to church. I'm active in my congregation. But if going to church made me feel bad, I would stop going, man. But maybe what Polka Dots is saying is correct. Maybe they feel bad, and so they're going somewhere where somebody is saying something that justifies their bad behavior. Maybe that's the case. I mean, I don't want to cast aspersions over the entire congregation, but why would you follow this guy? I don't know. Golden Spudlet, good to see you. Keep in mind this had been happening since she was 14, right? This guy is absolute trash. I guess they met when she was 15 is what I understood. Could be 14. So it's possible. I mean, again, tigers don't change their stripes. Leopards don't change their spots, right? So this kind of coercive control that he had over his wife, he likely had over his children, over his former wife, over his congregants, over his co-workers. He's probably very good at it and highly practiced. It's nuts. Let's see. I'm just going to kind of scan through here. Robeson County is lazy, unintelligent police department. If it would have happened in Cumberland County, they would have been all over JP. Golden Spudlet again. Isn't that handy? He's perverted the Bible to hide his crimes and abuse. That is messed up. That is messed up. Polka Dots. Again, I've heard that type of talk in churches. They threaten or shame other parishioners to keep them quiet. Guys, if you are a member of a church where they're pointing out specific people and their so-called sins, run. right? Run. Go to a church where people are loving and do their best to be good people. Admit when they make mistakes and try to do better. That's the place that you go. If a pastor is up on stage pointing out a specific member of that congregation and the sins that that person has, run. It's terrible. Yeah. And Cloud9, yeah. So that is what I had been feeling up until I found out. Well, up until I heard that there were bruises on her hands. I don't know for certain, but if there were bruises on her, then I feel differently. Plus, all this, I think he's unhinged. I think he's unhinged. Golden Spudlet. Okay, can we go get this guy? What a monster. Listen, hey, everybody, I've said this in the previous live stream. Don't, please. Don't ever do that. I know, Golden Spudlet, I know you and I know your heart. You've been on my channel for a long time. I know this is tongue in cheek. So, love you. I'm just saying, for those of you who don't understand that this is just sarcasm, don't do that, please. In fact, the lawyer at the press conference today specifically asked people not to protest at the church and stuff like that too. They'll get him in court. Arguably the biggest scumbag. Put him in with Stearns. Woo! Hard talk from Mooney. He's absolutely sadistic. He's a slave of Satan. It's pretty bad. JP is vile. Let's see. How do I pronounce this? Lens Nandez? I don't know. But thank you for being here. I'm sorry I didn't get your handle all correct. A lot of abusers will use biblical submission as a license to harm their wives, but they ignore that men are called to love their wives as Christ loves the church, a sacrificial love. Yes. Yeah, Cam, that is a good question. How did she hold on so long? Let me keep kind of scrolling through here. Jen says, I hope he goes to jail soon. Yeah. Justice for Micah. I wish she had somewhere safe to go. You know, the reality here is that she probably did have somewhere safe to go. She had her godmother. She had her family, her sisters. But he had so much control over her. You know what? I'm sick of looking at this guy. Let's look at her. Hold on. Let me hide that one. Give me a second. Go here. Then let's go over to Micah. Let's look at Micah, because that's a much better face to look at. I'm sick of looking at him. I wish she had somewhere to go. I think she did, but he had so much coercive control over her that she didn't think she could. The amount of mental and emotional fortitude and courage that it took for her to leave that is almost looks, I mean, it's impressive. It's crazy impressive. That mountain looked insurmountable, and she did it. Cam says, hoping the FBI are on to him. This guy is beyond, says Jennifer. Yes. Let's see. McRambleon says he's going to love number 9 to be public. Let's look up number 9. Adultery and promiscuity. Yeah. JP cheated on her many times, sent nudes to other women, paid a woman from church $10,000 to destroy an explicit video of himself. Yeah. I think it probably will become public sooner or later. Yeah. Let's see. You have to be very careful in your words. There are laws against slander. Yeah, and of course, I'm just spreading my opinion and saying things like, if these allegations are true, and I'm pointing out that they are allegations. I have to say though, like I have no reason to disbelieve these allegations. All of the behavior that I've seen, uh, Pastor J.P. Morgan is supportive of these allegations in my mind. Um, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, be careful where you worship, everybody. Let's go. Tina Mindful says, women, don't become financially dependent. Then you can leave at any time. In my opinion, that is the biggest problem in such cases. Yeah, well, Tina, the thing is though, like in healthy, loving partnership type relationships, you should be able to share finances and stuff like that. You really should. I mean, and I've said this before, Kimberly and I have been married almost 25 years. 25 years in November. Our finances are completely commingled. We don't have separate hidden accounts or anything like that. And that's kind of the scary thing, is that I'm sure that Micah was probably thinking it should be okay. He's my loving husband, right? He had so much control over her. So much control. But listen, there are programs, there are shelters, there are places you can go in almost everywhere in the United States. There are places that you can go. All you have to do is get there. If you are in an abusive relationship, please seek those places out. Those resources are available to you. In my county, we have wonderful resources for women who are suffering from DV. And so many women have availed themselves of those services, and it gets them on their feet. And you are able to go there to a place where you won't be judged for it. And guys, listen, like if you're watching right now and you are a victim of DV, I'm telling you, you will not be a pariah. You will not have like public shame. Those of the rest of us in society, we are proud of you when you get out of it. We applaud you and we want to help you out and lift you up. So please, please, please find those resources. Talk to people, man. Those resources are not hard to find. Okay. Mooney says JP's mask has fully slipped. Yeah. Let's see. Marissa says, sorry, I see these people in churches everywhere. You know what? Yeah. And I mean, I'm trying not to be completely judgmental about it because everybody has their issues. And I would say that the vast majority of people that are active religionists, let's say, doesn't matter what religion it is, are seeking to better themselves. But there are some, man, there are some bad apples. Bad apples. Nifty 50, Gavin, why are they not investigating the end of the 911 call she made? It's obvious she was not alone. So I listened to that with the audio enhanced, and I couldn't tell if, like, I definitely distinctly heard somebody in the background say Micah Miller, but it's hard to say whether it was somebody with Micah or somebody in the 911 call center. That's where I am on that. But yeah, let's see. Pa Amore, you are welcome. I'm glad that I can bring this to you. This guy is nuts. Yes, not this girl. This guy is nuts. Now let's get his face out of here. Let's see if there are a couple of other things. Yeah, you guys are... Just going to go through a couple things. Janie's Child said, I think the family took a picture of the bruises. I hope they did. That's one of those things. My little sister works in the funeral industry. She's a funeral director. And we talk a lot about things that she thinks that she sees that coroners and medical examiners don't see. And it is perfectly appropriate, guys, with your loved one to go to the funeral home and document the condition of their body or ask them to do it for you. That is perfectly appropriate and reasonable. And then, just so you guys know, next of kin has rights to a funeral home's file on their loved one. So once, you know, in most states, I believe that is the case. I'm not a lawyer, but most funeral homes, I believe, next of kin they have a right to those files. So hopefully the Micah's family will get the court to agree that they are basically the executor of the estate, meaning that they are next of kin, so that they can have those things. But I do hope that they did take pictures of those bruises. Autumn, does he still have a church? So Solid Rock has released him from his duties, but I don't think that means that he's fired. I think that just means we're taking a breather. Let's see. Yeah, the family have all confirmed the bruises. All right. There was somebody here that says, I lost it. Oh yeah, he's also a co-owner in a bar. Yeah. He learned his behavior from his dad. Yep, we've heard about the elder Mr. Miller. Yeah. You guys are awesome. You guys have lots of awesome comments. I think I'm going to leave it there. Let's just keep the fire lit on this case, guys. Let's keep the fire lit on this case. I am so glad. I mean, looking at that press conference today, that is a good lawyer. That is a very, very, very good lawyer. This is Regina Ward, the law firm of Regina B. Ward. Should we read this letter real quick? Should we read this? Yeah, I'm gonna read this. We've got a few minutes. This is a copy of a letter that they have sent to the state of South Carolina's Senate Judiciary Committee regarding the coercive control bill, asking it to be renamed Micah's Law. This is attention to State Senator Luke A. Rankin. Hang on just a second. Dear Chairman Senator Rankin, as you may be aware, news of Micah Miller's death has swept the nation and world by storm. Micah was a beautiful 30-year-old young Christian woman when on April 27th, 2024, she died from an alleged self-inflicted fatal gunshot wound. She was employed at her husband's church, Solid Rock Ministries, Inc., in Myrtle Beach, as the worship leader, youth director, graphic designer, missions ambassador, media director, and a myriad of other duties on behalf of the church. In journals and writings from Micah, she alleged that her husband, pastor, in quotes, pastor, this guy, John Paul Miller, emotionally abused her and abused her physically, spiritually, financially, and in this manner. According to Micah, Mr. Miller began this process by isolating her from her family, friends, removed her name from bank accounts, took her cell phone, which deprived her of contact numbers and a way to call, stole her car and hid it from her, repeatedly put her down, degraded her, threatened to reveal and did reveal private information and semi-nude photos of her, had her investigated for a false crime, and misused the legal process to have her committed for mental evaluations. Some believe that Micah took her life as a result of these alleged abuses. Keep in mind that Mr. Miller has never been arrested for DV or for any other crime against his wife during their entire marriage. Mr. Miller asserts his actions were all attempts to, quote, protect her, as he contends. She was in a bipolar mania from being off of her bipolar medication. Now I encourage you to put this letter to the side for a moment and read the attached Micah's list, which we obviously have read together, and then pick up reading from here. Micah's list is a small excerpt of the many, many terrible things Micah alleges her husband did to her. I'm so glad this lawyer wrote this letter. If you followed my suggestion and read Micah's list, you should be reeling right now from disbelief. I mean, I am, and wonder how in the world anyone could do all those things to a person and not be arrested or held accountable in some kind of way. But in the state of South Carolina, we still have archaic DV laws which recognize abuse only as physical. So, if the police are called, they look for black eyes, scratches, bruises, and other physical proof of a crime. And upon finding none, then no one is arrested, and the police leave as they have no law to refer to for the psychological crime of coercive control. Victims of psychological abuse suffer immeasurable damage impacting self-confidence, self-worth, and every facet of their everyday life. What married victims of psychological abuse are told, quote, "This is a domestic problem. You need to go to a family court for help." The abuser takes away phones, money, and transportation. Shocking news. I was astounded to discover that 4 years ago, on February 20th, 2020, former Representative McLean Toole introduced in the House of Representatives Bill H. 5271, the Coercive Control Bill. The bill's purpose is to amend the South Carolina law by adding Section 1625-130 to Title 16, Crimes and Offenses, Chapter 25, DV, to codify the offense of coercive control over another person. That is exactly what Micah's list is about, the many behaviors exemplifying coercive control over a person's liberty. That bill was immediately, that same day, referred to the Committee on Judiciary, where it died. 3 years ago, on January 12, 2021, Representative Robert J. R.J. May III introduced the same coercive control bill, now known as H. 3621. Again, on the same day it was read to the House, promptly referred to the Committee on Judiciary, where it died for a second time. 2.5 years ago, on December 7th, 2021, Senator Katrina Fry Sheely introduced the same coercive control bill, now known as S-927. With it finally being introduced to the Senate, one would think it's got a chance now. On the same day it was read to the Senate, it was promptly referred to the Senate's Committee on Judiciary, where it again died for a third time. Now, go back and reread Micah's list and notice that it follows the proposed law, which clearly indicates that had the bill been signed into law years ago, there is a possibility that a warrant would have been issued for John Paul Miller's arrest. Upon his arrest, he would have been under a no-contact order, which would have protected Micah. That arrest and no-contact order would have provided that small window she needed to escape his alleged abuse. And finally, assuming her allegations were proven, he may have been convicted of coercive control, a felony, and sentenced to jail up to 10 years. We do not know if Micah took her life simply because she was manic or whether she possibly died as a way to escape the alleged abuse. What we do know is that coercive control is a real form of abuse that was recognized by Evan Stark and codified by other states, including Hawaii, California, and Connecticut. Based on the foregoing, I demand that this bill be reviewed expeditiously by both the Senate and House committees on the judiciary, and I ask that you sponsor the bill and request that the name of the bill be amended to Micah's Law. The clear goal of this bill is to avoid any person from being psychologically and systematically abused. Furthermore, for those that commit this form of abuse to be held accountable. Most importantly, if the bill is passed, it has the potential to save an immeasurable number of victims from psychological abuse. I recognize Bill S-927 needs more work. That is evident by the 16 additional factors that I found missing from the bill and added to Micah's list. I also believe that the bill needs to include mandatory ankle monitors as part of the bond requirements. I believe that it would be prudent to require that a portion of the fines, fees, and ankle monitor costs be allocated to a DV fund to be used to provide free legal representation to victims of DV. The funds collected could pay for the salaries of one attorney in every county to represent the victims in court. I am sure the General Assembly will see other improvements needed as well. If I can be of service in any way to get Micah's Law codified, please do not hesitate to call me. I am hopeful that the citizens of South Carolina can count on you to support and be a voice for Micah's Law, and am confident you will see how imperative this is for the protection of victims of abuse. With kindest regards, I am very truly yours, Regina B. Ward. And she put the bill in there and Micah's list in there as well. I am glad that we read that. Oh my goodness. Guys, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I'm grateful for all of you who are in the live stream chatting away. You guys, the live chats are always on point and a lot of fun. So thank you very much for your participation today. Thank you to Autumn and Jamie for being here and being our mods tonight. It's so great that they are here. They are also, by the way, as you guys know who have been watching for a while, but those of you who don't, they are the admins of the Fish Tank, a little group of true crime lovers and aficionados on Facebook. So if you are on Facebook, please search the Fish Tank and join us for a lot of fun conversations that we have about the cases that I cover here on the channel and other cases as well. Also, reminder that you can always contact me at my website, gavinfish.com. There's always a link down in the description below. And yeah, one last thing, I do want to point out that we've got some live events coming up. One in August, I'll be speaking at True Crime Fest Northwest Arkansas. If you're in the Fayetteville area, please get yourself some tickets and come on out and see me. And then in September, I'm going to be back in London. I'm actually taking one of our daughters, our middle child, to London with me this time to experience CrimeCon UK. And if you use code FISH at checkout, you can save yourself 10%. Go to my website and there's more details there. All right. Thanks again for stopping by for the third time today. Really appreciate you guys. I will see you on the next one. Take care. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.